Hey, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me. Hope you're having a fantastic day. If you're new to this channel, I appreciate you taking some of your valuable time to check it out. I hope you enjoy it. So, as some of you may know, if you've watched my other videos in some of the post WNBA All-Star Game videos, I've been very complimentary as to how the All-Star Game worked out for the WNBA in terms of hopefully attracting more lifelong fans. I thought I mean, I think they lucked out in a way with the format that they got for Caitlin Clark's rookie year, and then her not making the team, and then being on the All Star team, and then the Angel Reese situation with Caitlin Clark. Like it all came together, and then they got the most important part of it. It was a highly entertaining game that showcased a number of players. I just did a video recently about the ratings. It was like this year's game was like 4 times the TV viewers as last year's All-Star game. And that is why this stood out to me and is sort of a little disappointing, but we're going to listen to, sure I have the volume. We're going to listen to a little bit. If you can't hear the question, it was even tough for me to hear it watching because of the echo in that room, but he basically the reporter basically asks about what they think in terms of the format this year, in terms of it being more like a real game, more intensity, the defense, and having that defense. Is that something they want to see again next year? I mean, obviously you can't have that format next year, but just that more intense level of play. So we're going to let this go for, yeah, it's probably only a minute or two long, and we'll talk about it.
Akeem with Beyond the W. This one's for both of you. Coach Reeve had mentioned something about how there was more defense in this year's All-Star game than most, and that's definitely attributable to the format being USA WNBA. Would you prefer that that you would see more of this even in years where it wasn't USA versus WNBA?
Your donation will help us.
Are you freaking
Your donation
kidding
will
me?
help us to open more field offices, to get more.
I'm confused on your question.
Do you want to have a competitive All-Star game like
Oh,
every year?
every year. Y'all want to be honest? Um, you know, it's like our mindset is different when the Olympics is going on. So yes, I feel like the defense has to be there because the parties, all the extra stuff, is like it's not there because we have to focus on the thing. But when it's not Olympic year, I don't want to play defense. 'Cause I probably physically will be there, but
I mean, it's a grind. Like
Okay, before she gets to the next part, what Breanna Stewart's going to say, because that's interesting too. But all respect to Asia Wilson and Breanna Stewart, I don't think you were there defensively this year, were you? Didn't you just give up 117 points to the B team and they took their foot off the gas late in the game because they were crushing you? But here's my bigger point to that. This kind of irks me, and I think a lot of people feel the same way. And look, the way the sport of football is designed, it's very difficult to have a real all-star game with the high risk of injury. I think it's true for the NHL as well. Not so much Major League Baseball. It's a game. I mean, they're not going to have a pitcher throw 150 pitches, but other than that, they can do that. Basketball used to be it used to be much more competitive than it is nowadays. If you go, I'm trying to think of the year. I can't remember the year, but Allen Iverson, the year he won All Star MVP, go back if you go find highlights of that game. Just look it up. Allen Iverson All Star MVP highlights or something like that. Let me tell you, those teams were playing to win, and that game was night and day compared to say the NBA All Star game that we just had. And no one wants to watch that. No one wants to watch that. It was absolutely hated, and that's what it's devolved into. There's literally no defense at all. They just run up and down the court. They let each other just dunk and shoot threes and whatever it is they want to do. No defense. And the point I'm getting to with this, after I just said about all the good that came from this All-Star game, is now you're gonna say, well, we don't want to play defense because we're gonna party, and I'll be out there going through the. No one wants to watch that. No one wants to watch that. And granted, an all-star game isn't going to make or break a league. Obviously, it's more important to be getting the ratings and the attendance to the games. But the all-star performances lately with the NBA aren't doing the league any favors. And the NBA is not growing, by the way, if you're unaware of that, in terms of their fan base. I don't know how they keep getting these absolutely insane media rights deals because the ratings aren't justifying it. I keep waiting for it to all implode like a house of cards, but the NBA is so big that it's going to be a slow motion train wreck. Now, the other thing that I think is the bigger story in this that really kind of irks me a little bit is you just heard Breanna Stewart say it's a grind. And I'm going to let her continue from there because this is really important.
Oh,
We
it
just
is.
came off 25 games.
It's a lot.
So like especially as the schedule continues to grow, I feel like All-Star games.
All right. That was really the key. Which talked about just came off 25 games and it's a grind. Now, these players have been complaining for years about the money that they make or don't make and endorsements and all of that stuff. Big complaints. They want the same piece of the revenue that the NBA players get, even though anybody who knows anything about basic economics, the WNBA does not have the revenue that the NBA has. That means fixed costs take up a much, much bigger part of the revenue that they do have, and it is just not feasible in reality to give the WNBA players the same percentage that the NBA players have. If you have $1 million business, your fixed costs are a higher percentage than if you say have basically the same fixed costs, but you're doing 10 million in sales. Okay? You follow me? I don't want to do a deep dive into economics, but you get the general idea. And yet they're complaining about the number of games. They have a 40 game season. The NBA is 82 with at least twice as many playoff games, probably more than that, depending on how long each series go. Right? Only 8 teams make the playoffs. I think the WNBA just a few years ago, for the first time, made the first round multiple game playoffs. I think the first round up until 2022 was one and done. So they aren't even playing anything close to an NBA schedule. Everything keeps getting longer, right? Everybody's expanded their playoffs. Major League Baseball plays their 162 games. They have more teams in the playoffs now than they used to. The NFL recently went, don't forget, you go back far enough, the NFL was like 12 games, but even in the 70s, it was 14, and then it went to 16, and now it's 17, and they're talking about adding an 18th game, and they have more teams in the playoffs. And you've got hockey with what, 84 games and 16 teams in the playoffs. And you're going to talk to me about a grind of a 40 game basketball season? That's what college is nowadays. At least the big time teams are the ones going into the tournament. It's close. Um, which has expanded a lot too. You go back a little ways and a 20, and it's still a good season to win 20 games, but that used to be like the top tier teams won 20 games. And that's because they didn't play nearly as many games as they're playing nowadays. But so that red flag for me That's just another thing that's going to turn people off about the league. They want, but they don't want to do anything that earns what they want. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I know that was kind of two different topics, but it was their answers to the same question. Your thoughts on the all-star games, or maybe even should they have all-star games anymore in sports with the lack of effort. I know I have no interest. I don't watch them anymore. I'll watch baseball at times just because I said it is basically a real game. But the other sports are just a complete waste of time when there's so many other things to do. And also your thoughts on what Breanna Stewart's complaint about it being a grind. They can't play hard in the All-Star game because the season's such a grind. Wow. Okay. Let me know your thoughts. Please be sure and like and subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the content. I really do appreciate it. It means a lot. We're slowly ticking our way up. See if we can get 6,000 by the end of the month. I think we can do that. It's all up to you though. But I'm gonna leave it there. I will talk to you later.